You would think that a looming recession, spurred largely by exorbitant government spending, would give this Congress pause. But instead of taking a minute to consider what a responsible federal government budget looks like, we are instead placed behind the barrel of a gun, forcing us to choose between letting government expire or blindly passing a $1.7 trillion spending package that not only does not balance, but in fact spends over 10% more than last year. How does Congress spend taxpayers' money? Well, here's just a few examples of how your government currently spends money. We found that they spent last year $2.3 million injecting beagles with cocaine. $700,000 was spent to study how male parrots attract their mate. Really? We spent $118,000 to study if a metal replica, a robot of Marvel Comics' evil warlord Thanos, could snap his fingers. $118,000, really? They apparently hired some dude to wear metal gloves and then try to snap his fingers.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the $1.7 trillion, 4,000-page omnibus spending bill that has passed Congress. It's going to become law. Joe Biden's definitely going to sign it. It averts a government shutdown. They do this every single year, okay, right before the holidays. They say, hey, you politicians, y'all want to go home, right? Make sure you sign on to this massive spending package, or else you got to stay here to avoid a government shutdown. Talk about holding politicians hostage at gunpoint, right? That want to oppose all this pork barrel spending. Now, to my surprise, AOC is actually the only Democrat in Congress that decided to vote against this, right? And you guys want to know why she voted against it? Not because of the pork that she put in it, right? She put, millions of dollars of pork for her own projects in her own district in this bill, but she voted against it because she was against additional funding for the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, right? She said, hey, I'm gonna vote no on this. Fascinating, right? But hey, at least she had the cojones to vote no, unlike some Republicans and Democrats as well too, that claim that, hey, I don't know what's actually in the bill, but hey, I'm proud of it. Even though I don't know what's actually in the bill, but I'm proud of it. Take a look.
For more on the spending bill, let's bring in Senator Chris Coons, who's a member of the Appropriations Committee. Senator, it's good to have you on, and you've seen all the, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas. You've seen all the, I don't know, the commentary from different sides that this has actually become kind of a ritual where you wait till people want to get to go home, and you really put a lot of stuff in it at the last minute, whether it's earmarks or whatever. 1.6 trillion. What, 4 trillion over the last 2 years and 31 trillion now we owe. Is this all okay, Senator? Do you ever look at it and say, we've overdone it?
Well, Joe, I voted for the omnibus and I'm proud to support it, but I don't like the process. And a bipartisan group of senators on the floor of the Senate were talking about how we can change this process going forward. Because frankly, as you said, when it all comes to the floor in the last few days and the last few hours, that doesn't give us enough time to fully scrub and understand what other members have put in it. I understand that I'm responsible, and so is my colleagues, the congressional delegation, for the congressionally directed spending for Delaware. But I don't know exactly what every other member of the Senate has put in the bill. So, frankly, it's important for us to change the timing, to get back to following what's in the law in terms of having open hearings early in the year, not late in the year.
Yeah, so is he actually going to do that? Of course not, right? Of course not, of course not, of course not, okay? Yeah, the common sense thing would be to have this stuff straightened out and debate it throughout the year. While these politicians are taking so many breaks, okay, while they're going home and vacation and going back to their districts, maybe they should actually be in Congress doing their jobs and actually pouring through these 4,000 pages and trillions of dollars that they want to spend and figuring out, does this actually make sense for us to spend money on stuff like this? And maybe we could, I don't know, get some homeless vets off the street or something like that, right? With the $300 or $400, $500,000 that we casually spend on trying to see if we can recreate a Thanos snap, right? Again, I'm just saying, this type of stuff they spend money on. And if you complain about it and you say that, hey, you know, I'm not necessarily sure if this makes sense for us to spend money on this, and we should not be trying to pass these bills at the end of the year right before Christmas while everybody's pressured to want to go home. Again, these people never want to work. I mean, they get vacations throughout the whole year. I don't understand why they never want to work, but if you complain about it, then they try to say you're trying to shut down the country. Well, you're trying to shut down the government, right? You're trying to stop the whole country from running. That's what they say. Again, it's amazing how that works. And Republicans play right into their hands. You know, people like Mitch McConnell, who has never seen enough defense spending, right? As long as you're spending enough money on defense, right? The defense contractors that, you know, contribute to Mitch McConnell's super PACs in his campaign, he's totally fine with the amount of money that you spend, right? As long as he's getting his kickback, right? And then he'll come out here and claim to be fiscally conservative, even though he's really not, right? He's really not. Not when it comes to corporate socialism and defense spending. Again, it's not an increase in a defense budget that Mitch McConnell would ever not approve of, right? Again, if he was like, look, let's spend another $1 trillion on defense, okay, send billions and billions and billions of dollars more to Ukraine, let's send him $500 billion, Mitch McConnell will say, okay, right? I'm totally fine with that. Even though, again, we have a $31 trillion debt while we also have rising interest rates, which means that our debt service is going to get more expensive, which means that we're going to have to borrow more money to service our debt, but we have to raise interest rates because we've been spending too much and inflation is out of control. Yeah, you guys can see how this can be a disaster, right? This is a disaster. It's headed for a train wreck. But hey, don't let the Republicans in the Senate know that, right? They said, hey, let's do it. Let's sign up for this. 18 of them to be exact. And they have been in opposition with Republicans in the House who are in opposition to this, led by Kevin McCarthy, because he's trying to get the Freedom Caucus on the side and say, hey, you know what? Let me throw these people a bone. I'm going to oppose this omnibus spending package that he knew would pass, but he said he opposed it, right? That has created some drama among Republicans. In fact, you have Representative Chip Roy from Texas who came out and ripped the Republicans in the Senate for signing up for this omnibus spending package. Take a look.
5 minutes.
Thank the Speaker. I thank the gentleman from Pennsylvania. And I can't help but be amused that the gentleman from Massachusetts says that we refuse to come to the table, as if the gentlelady who will soon be the chairwoman of Appropriations, Ms. Granger, my colleague from Texas, doesn't want to sit at the table with colleagues on either side of the aisle to come to consensus about how to spend taxpayer dollars, or better stated, how to borrow money we don't have, as if that's actually true. What table is the gentleman referring to? What table does he want us to come sit down and negotiate? It's not this table. I don't have the power to offer an amendment on the floor of the House of Representatives, despite being elected by 750,000 Texans. I don't have the ability or the right to be able to stand up for them and have a debate on the floor of this chamber. Everything the American people is watching right now is a complete sham. It's a fraud being perpetrated on the American people right before their eyes, right as we head into Christmas, sitting here on the 23rd of December, when 6 years ago, those boys crossed the Delaware. We were dealing with Valley Forge, or the boys in 1944 sitting in foxholes in Bastogne over Christmas. And we had 18 Republicans who joined with Democrats in the Senate, get on their fancy planes and go home, and we're sitting here trying to do the work of the people. Not spend money we don't have, not drive up more inflation, not have 7,500 earmarks for $16 billion for pet leftist projects across this country. What you see here on the floor of the House of Representatives should make everybody ashamed. The People's House. Not one amendment has been offered on the floor of this body since May of 2016 in open debate. The gentleman from Massachusetts dares to impugn the character of the Appropriations Chairwoman Kay Granger and those Republicans he says won't sit at the table, when in fact what you see here is a 4,100-page bill cooked up by a handful of people behind closed doors, brought before the Rules Committee with no ability to offer an amendment, no ability to debate, no actual discussion on the People's House floor. And my colleagues on the other side of the aisle know it. And we're spending money we don't have. Go home and sell your projects. Go home and talk about all the pork you're bringing home. But you're destroying the United States of America. Absolutely destroying this body. The American people did not send us here to do that. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle know that. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle know full well that this body is broken, but do not care. $45 billion to Ukraine. Have we had a full debate on Ukraine? Or did we take $45 billion of funding for Ukraine, package it on a $1.7 trillion bill, invite the president of Ukraine to address this body for theatrics heading out for Christmas in order to jam through a big spending Democrat priority bill that the American people resoundingly rejected in November? For 70 years, this body, when we've had a transfer of power in the Senate, we have not done this in a lame duck. Yet that's what my Democrat colleagues are doing. There are consequences to this. You can't go out and talk about inflation and talk about what the American people are feeling right now when they're trying to fill up their tanks with gas. They're trying to have presents for their families. They're trying to pay their bills. And then come here and dump hundreds of billions of dollars into the economy while the Fed's raising interest rates and people can't afford to buy homes and they can't live, and say you're doing the people's work. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, night before last, were apoplectic that Mike Lee was daring to challenge the idea that we should have a bill that literally prohibits Border Patrol from securing the border. He wanted to try to fix that, try to extend Title 42. My Democrat colleagues rejected it, and I sat here on the floor, and they were more concerned about catching their flights for Christmas, coming to me and saying, we can't be here over Christmas. Well, why the hell not? The American people deserve us to be here over Christmas, actually fighting for them, instead of trying to catch planes while half this body are going to vote by proxy. Half this body's not even going to be here, and they're lying. They're lying on forms saying that they're voting by proxy for COVID, and it's a lie. And half this body's going to do it, you know it, and it's destroying this country. I'm not going to just sit here and roll over on this. This is going to continue. The American people are going to know precisely what's happening to them by the people's house. I yield back.
Yeah, I got goosebumps listening to that. That was probably one of the best speeches I've ever seen in my life on the House floor. He ripped them to shreds. There's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can add to that to make that speech better. Okay? I felt that. Right? I felt that deep. Okay? Because that is how the American people feel. You have people on the battlefield. You have soldiers that have fought and died in wars that have had to do that during Christmas. They didn't get no days off, right? But the politicians who's supposed to be fighting for the American people, oh, well, we want to go home for Christmas. You don't want us to go home for Christmas, right? No debate, right? Let's not have a debate on, continuing to fund this war in Ukraine and what it might mean and where we're going with this. No, we're not going to do that. Okay, we're not going to debate the fact that we have all these pet projects and things that are being funded that we have no business funding, no debate. But if you want to debate it, then you want to keep us from enjoying Christmas, and you also want to shut down the country, right? But those people are never accused of wanting to bankrupt this country, because that's what they want to do. They want to bankrupt this country. This is a scam. Like you said, it really is. It is a scam. And the problem is that, this happens every single year. And after it's done, it's done. At the beginning of the year, they moved on to something else. Nobody ever talks about it. Nobody ever revisit it. But in my opinion, that should be nothing done the next year unless this process is fixed. The first thing that should be done if Kevin McCarthy is serious is to fix this process. He's the leader of the House. He's the leader of the House. Or he wants to be the leader of the House. He wants to be the Speaker of the House. He will have the power to hold up any legislation or anything, any agenda in the House that doesn't have to do with fixing this process. Because, again, this process is a sham. And it's one of the biggest problems with this country. Why in the world are politicians voting on a bill that they've never read? You don't know what's in that bill. We have no clue what's in that bill. They don't know. But, hey, I'm proud of it. I'm going to vote for it anyways. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.